Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark with our Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1962 Soviet war drama, Ivan's Childhood.
Зачем? Мы сейчас уезжаем.
Hey, was it something I said? There's no reason to rush. Please sit down, stay a while, make yourself comfortable. I'm just reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm at 1962 with Ivan's Childhood. This movie has 100% fresh rating from the critics and a 93% fresh rating from the audience. And just a quick disclaimer here before I move on with my review. Yes, I understand that this movie is out of Russia. Yes, I understand what's going on in Russia. So why am I reviewing this movie? I promised myself that I would review every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, regardless of where it comes from. And I'm trying to keep that promise to myself. So there will be other movies out of Russia. I apologize if that upsets anyone, but I'm just trying to keep this promise to myself. So this movie stars Nikolay Burlov as Ivan, Valentin Zubkov as Leonid Holin, and Evgeny Zarkov as Galstev. I probably butchered every single one of those names. So this movie was directed by Tarkovsky. He was 30 years old when he first directed this movie. And for being a first attempt at directing a movie, absolutely amazing job. This movie follows a pattern. Aside from the last movie that I just did, Victim, it follows a pattern from the 1960s where every movie just looks visually amazing. And this one, I would say, tops or is as equal to every other movie as far as visual effects. What he's able to do with lighting, what he's able to do with camera work is phenomenal. I'm really glad that he decided to do this movie in black and white because I'm not sure it would have worked as well in color, but it looks just stunning. It is just a beautiful movie to watch. It really draws you in with the visuals, and it really is a marvelous achievement for his first time as a director. So basically, this movie follows a child named Ivan. When we first meet him, he is been taken in by some Russian soldiers. They're trying to figure out who he is, but he refuses to talk to anyone except for like Commander number 51, who is a commanding member of the army.
Садить тебя под замок и представить охрану. Доволен?
Я же сказал доложить в штаб армии 51-му. А вы куда звонили?
Сказал. Я же не могу сам обращаться в штаб армии.
Давайте я позвоню.
Не смей.
They finally are able to contact this commander who rushes down and he sends someone down, Hulin, who comes in and picks up the kid. And we realize that Ivan is someone who is being used as like a spy. He's doing reconnaissance for the Russians. And he came over from the other side of the river, where any adult who would have tried to make this trip across the river would have died because they would have been hurt or they would have been seen pretty easily. But since he's a child and since he's a small child, he's able to do these reconnaissance missions easily by himself, where like someone else wouldn't be able to do this.
Ванюша, ну пойми ты, дурачок, ну не твое это дело, война. Вник.
Ну вы же обещали, что приказа не будет. Ляховые морозы убили. Я же знаю, потому что они большие. А я всюду пройду. И один я, вы же знаете.
However, when he gets back from this latest reconnaissance mission, he's told that he's going to be starting military school and that he's no longer going to be used as a spy for their units. Now, he takes great offense to this because he feels like he is a really good spy and he feels like this is kind of what he wants to do. And he doesn't want to go to military school. He wants to be in the trenches. He wants to be, in this war. He wants to be part of it. He wants to feel like he's really making a difference. And also his family, his mom and dad were killed as well. He doesn't have a family. He doesn't have anyone that he can depend on. Kind of these guys, Hulin, are his family. These are the people that he loves and that he's around. And it just doesn't seem like he wants to leave he wants to leave them. He wants to continue what he's doing. He wants to continue to be, with the little bit of family that he has with these soldiers. He wants to be with them.
А где его отец и мать?
Чьи?
Ивана.
Ивана, не знаю. Мать с сестренкой вроде убили. Отец пограничник. Погиб, что ли?
Вот как.
Вот-вот. Ему столько пережить пришлось, что тебе и не снилось. И в партизанах был. И где его только не мотало.
А что ж теперь с ним будет?
А чего, если после войны мать не отыщется? Значит, подполковник либо Катасоныч усыновят его.
А почему это они, а не ты?
There's this push and pull throughout the movie. It seems like there's a lot of flashbacks. There's a lot of dream sequences of Ivan when he was younger with his family. When I think there's some dream sequences also where he's doing other like reconnaissance missions, but it's kind of hard for me to tell sometimes fully what's going on in this movie, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. There's also a scene kind of in the middle. It's like a side scene where there's two officers who are in love with this woman who I believe is also in the military, and it's a bit of a love triangle between them.
Зачем?
Ну, пойди скорее. Скорее.
I didn't understand the reasoning for this side story, unless it's supposed to talk about how lonely, how like bleak this time was, how people were just, reaching out to anyone they could. They wanted to find companionship. They wanted to find love with those around them. And like the battles and the harshness of war is really keeping them from the people that they want to be with the most. I'm not sure. Like, I felt like this relationship, it's only touched on a little bit, this relationship, this love triangle thing, but I just felt it had to do something with like the bleakness of what's going on and the harshness of war, because this whole movie seems like it's basically about like the harshness of war and how it affects people's lives, and it's a very bleak movie, to be perfectly honest, but it's a war movie, so it's not all roses and candy. So, I mean, that's like a side story. So later on in the movie, they decide that they're going to I think cross enemy lines with Ivan. They're at the end of the movie. They're kind of in this boat with him, in this like canoe with him, and they're getting like there's sounds of gunshots and like bombs and things going off in the distance, and it's beautiful. Like I said, the whole movie visually is stunning. I'm a sucker, I've said this before in other reviews, I'm a sucker for anything that happens on the water, anything that happens in a lake, especially when it's black and white, and there's just like the perfect shadows coming off of the water, and there's perfect shadows coming off of the lake, and it's done beautifully here. It's done absolutely amazingly. I mean, the visual effects alone deserve a high score for this movie, because they're stunning. And for this to be his first ever movie that he's directed, and to be able to do this kind of cinematography, this kind of camera work, it's mind-blowing. I mean, he definitely knew what he was doing here when he was creating this movie. So they decide to go across this river. At some point, they split up with Ivan, and he goes off on his own, and the two people he's with, they go off on their own.
Как себя чувствуешь?
Нормально. Ну, я пойду.
Я провожу тебя немного.
Нет, ты большой, с тобой застукают.
А может, я пойду? Ну, хоть до оврага. Там глина. Наследишь, я пронесу тебя.
Нет, сказал, пойду один.
Ну, до встречи.
До встречи.
And I don't want to spoil the ending of the movie. I will say this is one of those movies where the ending is not something that I really, I mean, it's not a happy ending really, but what happens to Ivan, whether it's good or bad, happens off screen, and you're kind of told about it like, I mean, you really have to be paying attention to the end of the movie, because they just barely like gloss over what happened to Ivan and what became of him, and kind of what's going to become of Hulin and these people that Ivan's interacting with. And it just didn't it wasn't a very fulfilling ending. It didn't like. I know ending doesn't have to be happy. It can be sad, but you still want to feel like that it ended the way that it needed to. You were satisfied. You were given everything that you needed. You followed this little snapshot of Ivan's life, and at the end, you were satisfied with what happened. As to me, this doesn't happen. They really do a disservice to the character of Ivan the way they ended this movie. Just kind of haphazardly, like, oh, hey, here's a paper clipping of what happened to him. Or I don't know, I don't remember how they did it, but it was like in a book or something where there's an article about Ivan or something. I don't know. I wish I could have seen it on camera. I feel like Ivan's the only character in this movie that is even somewhat fleshed out as far as like a background story, as far as like character building. You find out that his parents were both killed, and that he is a spy, and you eventually, through the movie, you have sort of maybe a feeling towards Ivan where you feel bad for him because, he doesn't have anyone. He only has these soldiers beside him as family. This is all he knows is war and fighting, and you feel bad for him. And then at the end of the movie, they're just like, here's what happened to him, and it's just like a complete letdown. I actually had to go back and rewatch the ending because I completely missed what happened to him. I had to rewind it, and I'm like, wait, like what did I miss? What happened to Ivan? Where'd he go? It's just, to me, it was like hidden there. I don't know if I just wasn't paying close enough attention to what was going on, but it was like it's done so nonchalantly and so matter of factly that you're like, why did I put any emotional investment into this character? Like, why out of all the characters, obviously he's the main character. He's the one that's mostly fleshed out when it comes to backstory. But why did I emotionally invest myself in this when it's just going to be like, oh, here you go. It's just, I didn't understand it. The other characters in the movie, there's no character building, really. They're just kind of, you learn that one of them wants to maybe adopt Ivan after all of this is over, but he thinks like a commanding officer is going to. But, he's asked, why don't you? And I don't think it really goes anywhere. Like, as soon as they start trying to bring up personal stuff, it just kind of, like, nothing happens. Again, is that supposed to be a bigger conversation about what war is and about how, like, eventually the people who are fighting in war, they just become nameless. They're just, like, soldiers who were fighting for a cause, but eventually you don't remember who they are. Eventually you forget their names, except for like the big war heroes like Ivan, who, he was able to do something that no one else could. He was young. He was able to be a good spy. Like, those are the people that you remember, but in the end, you don't remember the other ones who were just kind of in the mix. Is that why they don't do character building on these characters? I don't really know. Maybe I'm trying to delve too much into this movie. I'm trying to find things that aren't there, but there wasn't really any character building. At the end of the movie, you find out what happened to like the other main characters around him, but honestly, I had no investment in it. It didn't really matter to me. I was like, oh well, that's unfortunate, but like there was no investment there. I didn't really care. And I don't know, like I said, it's just because there's no character building. The pace of this movie is like egregiously slow. Also, I honestly, there were times when I lost interest. I wasn't really paying attention that closely to what was going on because, there's not a lot going on. Ivan's not on screen that much. He's on screen enough, but for a character that is supposed to be this big spy, I thought, he was going to go into more trenches. They were going to send him out to do things. But it's really just like in one room where they're trying to plan things out and they're trying to like plot what's going to happen next. There's not a whole lot of battle scenes going on. There's not a whole lot of anything really happening except for discussions about who Ivan is and like where he grew up, and there's not a whole lot going on here. But visually, the movie's fantastic. Ivan's character, the way they build his character is great up until the end, where it's a total letdown. But like I said, for a first-time attempt at directing, he did an amazing job. I can't think of I mean, I'm sure there are other directors who did an amazing job. Well, Robert Redford in Ordinary People, sure. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. But not a lot of directors can, I feel like, can give this kind of effort on their first try. So, I mean, fantastic. Good job. I need to see probably more movies by Tarkovsky because he's a famous director. Maybe I will. Maybe after, if there's no other movies in this 100% fresh list, maybe after this is done, I'll watch more movies from him. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. I know 93% from the audience. It's much higher from other people, but it just wasn't for me. Not enough character building, slow in the middle, very slow movie, didn't really keep my attention. It wasn't really for me, but I appreciate what it is. I appreciate his effort on this first try, and 8 out of 10 is what I'm going to give it. Thank you. I hope you join me this weekend on Saturday. I'm going to definitely review Sanjuro next, and maybe one or two more on Saturday as well, depending on how the day goes. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.